Emma Hayes knew how to make herself small. She had been doing this for a time like 28 years. She got really good at it when she worked at Anderson's used books during the late shift. And now that she was working at the Midnight Rose, it was more important. The Midnight Rose is a restaurant that takes up the 3 floors of the Obsidian Tower. This is a place where rich people, from Manhattan, go to see each other. They like to pretend that nothing else matters, like the rest of the world is not there. Emma Hayes had been working at the Midnight Rose for a month now. She had to be small to get by. Emma walked around the tables quietly. People only noticed her when they wanted more water or a new fork for their dessert. She was, like a ghost, because Emma was always there, but nobody really saw her unless they needed something from Emma. She liked it that way. What happened at Columbia was really bad. There were accusations and people did everything they could to ruin her career as a professor. Being invisible felt safe. Professor Whitmore made sure that no university would give her a job, that no place that did research would talk to her, that her big paper on fraud in the 1920s would never be published. The reason they gave was that she did something as a student, but that is a pretty vague reason. It could mean anything, so it means everything about fraud. Her paper on fraud was never going to see the light of day because of what Professor Whitmore did to her career and her research on corporate fraud. The real reason she did this was because she found out that the money for his research was not coming from the right places. She asked some questions that made certain people feel very uneasy. These people did not like what she was doing. They told her to stop asking questions. But she would not stop. She kept on asking about the funding sources for his research. Even when people warned her to leave it alone, she gave up her dream of being a historian to focus on her life now. This meant she was carrying food to people that cost a lot of money, more than she paid for rent each month. She put away all the work she was doing. Got rid of most of her books except the ones that were really special to her. Then she moved into an apartment in Queens. The apartment always smelled like the food from the restaurant downstairs. She kept telling herself that this was not going to be, that she was just taking a break and figuring some things out. She hoped that someday she would be able to go to doing what she really loved, which was being a historian. 2 years went by. What was supposed to be temporary became permanent. This thing that was temporary, it is now a thing. The temporary situation is now the permanent situation. The night that everything changed began like any Friday evening at the Midnight Rose. This place was always full of people who thought they were important. The Midnight Rose was buzzing with the energy of these people. Emma was carrying a tray of champagne glasses to table 7. She put them down carefully. Was about to walk away when she felt something strange. It felt like the room got really cold all of a sudden. People stopped talking in the middle of their sentences. Nobody was laughing anymore. Emma looked up. That is when she saw the Midnight Rose's atmosphere change. She looked up. Saw her at the Midnight Rose. Cassandra Winters walked into the restaurant. It was like she owned the place. She was really pretty. In a scary way, like a wild animal that you do not want to mess with. Cassandra Winters had on clothes that probably cost a lot of money, more than Emma makes in half a year. Cassandra Winters' hair was a blonde color and it fell down her back in pretty waves. The jewelry Cassandra Winters was wearing sparkled and shined brightly. Cassandra Winters was smiling. It was not a real smile because it did not reach her eyes. Her eyes were a blue color, like ice, and they seemed to be thinking really hard about something. Cassandra Winters' eyes were looking at everything. Everyone. They did not miss a thing. Emma was aware of her identity. Every single person who worked at the Midnight Rose was aware of it too. Cassandra Winters was the woman in question. She was engaged to Dominic Blackwood. Dominic Blackwood was a billionaire. His technology company had changed a lot of things in 3 industries. The foundation he had started had also helped to pay for hospitals and schools and research programs around the world. Cassandra Winters used to be a model. Then she became someone who told people about the things she liked. Now she was a part of high society. Cassandra Winters was in charge of the scene in Manhattan. She was very good at being in charge. She reminded people of the queens from a time ago. They were known for being very tough. Getting what they wanted. Cassandra Winters was, like that too. People were scared of her. It was not because she was mean to them in a way that everyone could see. The thing is, she was mean in a way. She would say things to people and smile at them. Really, she was hurting them. They did not even know what was happening to them. They just knew they were hurt. The nice words and smiles she gave them made it hard for them to figure out how they got hurt. People who dealt with her were left feeling bad. They did not know why. Her cruelty was hidden behind smiles and compliments. People who were around her were bleeding on the inside. They just did not know where she had hurt them. Emma had taken care of Cassandra's table one time. It was about 3 weeks ago. That time Cassandra had sent her appetizer back to the kitchen 2 times. She did not like it. She also said the room was too cold. When it was time to pay, Cassandra did not leave Emma any extra money for doing a good job. The good thing was that Cassandra did not really talk to Emma, and Emma was happy about that because she did not have to deal with Cassandra. Emma liked being ignored by Cassandra. It made her job easier. Tonight would be different. Emma was assigned to the dining room where Cassandra sat with 6 other women. They were all dressed in clothes that showed they had a lot of money, but they did not show it off too much. The women were talking about a charity gala. Their voices sounded a little boring and also very full of themselves. This was something that Emma had seen before in people who had a lot of money. Emma walked up to the table with the wine list. She stood up straight. Her face looked very calm and nice. The charity gala was something that the women seemed to think was very important. Emma listened to them for a moment before she started to talk about the wine. Cassandra and the other women were all looking at her, waiting for her to say something about the dining room and the wine they could have. Emma was very good at her job. She knew just what to say to people, like Cassandra and her friends. Cassandra looked up. Something changed in her eyes. They seemed to know something. Maybe she remembered something. Maybe she was thinking about what to do. Emma felt a bad feeling in her stomach. It was like Emma knew something was wrong. Emma felt scared when Cassandra smiled at her. Cassandra's smile made Emma's stomach feel tight. Cassandra said, "We will have the 2005 Chateau Margaux." She said this in a voice that everyone could hear. "Unless our server does not know the difference between Chateau Margaux and Merlot, we will have the 2005 Chateau Margaux." Cassandra wants to make sure our server knows that Chateau Margaux is not the same as Merlot. The other women laughed. It was a sound, like when you drop a glass and it breaks. Emma kept her face still. "Course, Miss Winters. The 2005 Margaux wine. This is an excellent choice of wine, the 2005 Margaux." She went back to the wine cellar. Checked the wine 3 times. This was because her hands were shaking really badly. She could not make a mistake. So she picked up the bottle. Brought it back, in the special box it came in. The wine expert then opened the bottle at the table. Poured a little bit of wine into Cassandra's glass. He waited for her to say it was okay. Cassandra moved the wine around in her glass, smelled it and took a sip. Then she put the glass down carefully, like it was going to break if she was not gentle. "This is not what I ordered," she said quietly. The words just stopped everything. It was silent. "I asked for the 2005 Margaux. This is the 2009 Margaux, I can see that." Emma's heart stopped beating. She had looked at the bottle. She knew it was the 2005 wine. The year was there on the label for anyone to see. Cassandra was looking at her with those cold eyes. The whole private dining room was quiet now. The other women were watching Emma. They were watching her like they wanted to see her get hurt. They were waiting to see what would happen next. The 2005 wine was still the problem. Emma knew she was right, about the 2005 wine. Miss Winters, Emma said, I want to make sure you know that the wine is from the year. The label says 2005, so the vintage is correct. If you do not like this wine, I can go back to the cellar. Find something else for you. I want to make sure you are happy with the wine, Miss Winters. Are you calling me a liar? The question came out soft. It was really sharp. Cassandra got up slowly. She did it on purpose. She wanted to make an impression. Cassandra is a woman. She is even taller in her high heels, which were probably very expensive, maybe even more than what Emma owes for college. Are you saying that I, someone who has been collecting wine for a long time before you were even born, do not know how to tell what year a wine is from? Cassandra said this about the wine because collecting wine is something Cassandra has been doing for a time. Emma felt the weight of things being unfair pushing down on her. This was like what happened with Professor Whitmore. The same trick, the tough decision. She could say sorry, feel bad about herself, or she could tell the truth and get in trouble. Emma had told the truth before. It had really hurt her. Now she was standing there in her server uniform facing this woman who had a lot of power, like some people have guns. Emma felt really tired. She was tired of feeling weak. Tired of having to give in just to get by. She was tired of watching her dignity slowly slip away, all for the sake of a job that did not even pay her enough to cover her bills. The job was supposed to be a means to an end. It was really just a struggle to make ends meet. Her dignity was being worn down bit by bit. It was a hard thing for her to accept. The job was not giving her the security she needed, and it was taking a toll on her sense of self-worth. She felt like she was losing herself in the process of trying to make a living. The slow erosion of her dignity, in the name of keeping a job, was a thing for her to deal with. Emma said to Miss Winters, I am not calling you anything, Miss Winters. I am saying something that's true. The bottle says 2005 on it. You can check it for yourself. The bottle is labeled 2005. If the wine does not taste good, I will get you another bottle of the 2005 wine, Miss Winters. The world stopped for a moment. Then Cassandra's hand moved fast and she hit the wine glass. It fell off the table. Broke into pieces on the marble floor. The red wine spilled out. Spread across the floor like blood on white stone. The noise was loud in the room and it felt like the end. The wine glass was really broken now and the wine was over the place. Cassandra had done something that could not be undone. The room was silent again. The sound of the breaking glass was still in everyone's mind. The red wine, on the floor, was a big mess. Cassandra said to Emma, You are a little fool. She was really angry, even though they both knew that Emma was standing close by when the glass fell down. I want you to leave my sight now, Cassandra told Emma. I want Emma fired from the job. I want it to happen right away. The restaurant manager showed up. His face was really pale. He was saying sorry already. He was also trying to grab Emma's arm so he could take her away. But before the restaurant manager could touch Emma, someone else spoke up. Everyone got quiet. That won't be necessary. Emma turned around. Her breath stopped. The man who was sitting by himself in the corner, the one she did not really see because he looked like he wanted to be left, was now standing at the door to the private dining room. He was a man with a lean build wearing a charcoal suit that looked like it was made just for him. His dark hair had some gray in it near his temples. The man's face had a lot of edges and he looked very serious, but he was not showing any emotions. Emma saw the man from the corner booth, the dining room man, and she felt something. The man, the one, in the charcoal suit, just stood there. The man's eyes were really sharp and smart. They did not miss a thing. His eyes were always on the lookout for something. They noticed everything that was going on around him. The man's eyes were alert and intelligent. Dominic Blackwood was standing there. He saw the whole thing happen. He had been watching. Dominic Blackwood saw everything that was going on with the entire scene unfold. He walked across the floor, taking his time with each step. The wine bottle was still sitting there in its box next to the broken glass. He looked at Cassandra with a face like he was asking her a question. The room seemed different with him in it, like everything else was not important. He stopped and studied the glass and the wine bottle, then he looked at Cassandra again. The way he moved was slow and, on purpose, like he was thinking about each step. "The wine is from 2005, he said in a voice. "I can see the date, from where I'm standing, Cassandra. You might want to get your eyes looked at." Cassandra. Cassandra's face went white. Then it got all red again. She tried to say something. She could not find the right words. The women who were with them, there were 6 of them, they all started looking at their phones. They looked away like they were staring at the ground, and they would not look up at Cassandra or anything else. "Dominic," Cassandra said, her voice was not as sharp as it was before. It was softer now. "Darling, I had no idea you were here," Cassandra told Dominic. "I was just having some trouble with the service. This girl was really bad at her job." Dominic said, "I have been here for an hour." He was talking to someone in a way, but he sounded like he had already made up his mind. "I heard you place the order for the wine," he said. "I watched her check that the wine was really old. I saw you knock over the glass by yourself. I watched her check that the wine was really old. I saw you knock over the glass by yourself." Then Dominic turned to Emma. For the time Emma saw something in Dominic's eyes that looked like he knew who she was. "What is your name?" Dominic asked Emma. "Emma Hayes, sir." "Emma, I am sorry that you had to go through this. Can you please stay after your shift is over? I want to talk to Emma about something." Emma nodded. She did not trust her voice. Dominic turned back to Cassandra. His face still looked nice. Emma could see that he was not really being friendly. He said, "We should talk, the 2 of them, in private." He walked away without waiting for Emma to say anything. The manager had to hurry after him, which meant Emma was left standing with all the broken glass and spilled wine everywhere. Cassandra just stood there. For the first time she did not look calm and collected. When Cassandra looked at Emma, her eyes did not just show that she was angry. The manager and Cassandra were still dealing with the situation. Emma could see something else in Cassandra's eyes. Emma could see that Cassandra was not done with her yet. Cassandra's eyes told Emma that this was not the end of it. The situation with Cassandra was far from over, for Emma. Emma finished her shift. She felt really confused and excited at the same time. The other people she worked with were talking about what happened. They were wondering why Dominic Blackwood stuck up for her. What did Dominic Blackwood want to talk to Emma about? Was Cassandra going to be mean to Emma? Emma did not know what to think. All these questions were going around in her head. Emma had no idea what was going on with Dominic Blackwood and Cassandra. Emma just did not have any answers to these questions about Dominic Blackwood. What he wanted. At 1 in the morning, when all the guests were gone and the dining rooms were clean, Emma was called to an office on the executive floor of the building. The stairs she had to climb seemed long and her heart was beating very fast, like it was going to jump out of her chest. The door to the office was open and warm light was coming out into the hallway, which had a lot of art on the walls, the kind of art that you would normally see in a museum. Dominic Blackwood was sitting behind a desk that was made of wood. His jacket was off. His tie was a little loose. Dominic Blackwood looked really tired. It was like he was tired all the way to his bones. When she walked in, Dominic Blackwood's eyes were wide awake. "He told me to close the door. I should sit down," he said. He also said, "Please." Emma did what she was told. Sat down on the edge of a really expensive leather chair. This chair probably cost more than her car. Dominic looked at Emma for a long time. She started to feel really uneasy because it seemed like he was checking her out. It was like he was trying to figure out what kind of person Emma was. He was judging her against some kind of standard that Emma could not see. Emma felt like Dominic was taking her apart and putting her back together again in his mind. "I know who you are," he said after a while. "You are Emma Hayes. You wrote a paper at Columbia about business deals in the 1920s. The paper was really good. Then you got in trouble for cheating and they kicked you out of school just 3 months before you would have gotten your degree." He leaned forward a bit. "I also know that Professor Gerald Whitmore made up the thing because you found out he was doing something wrong with his research money. He was taking money from my foundation, putting it in his own bank accounts, which is a bad thing to do, especially when it is money from my foundation that is supposed to be used for good things, not for Professor Gerald Whitmore to get richer." Emma felt like the whole world was turning down. She asked, "How do you know that?" "I like to keep track of where my money's going. So I looked into Whitmore. I found some old research of yours in the university files. You were right about everything that was going on with Whitmore. He actually got arrested 6 months ago. Now he is in jail for 5 years because he did fraud." Dominic's face looked a little less serious. "You were Emma. You lost everything because you were right. I am sorry that nobody told you what happened. I wish I had found you a time ago." Tears burned behind Emma's eyes. She did not let them fall. It had been 2 years now. For 2 years Emma had been thinking that she was wrong about everything, that she deserved to be sent away, that her feelings about things were not correct. Now Emma knew that she had been right about everything all along. Emma had been right the time. That was a really big deal to Emma. She asked in a quiet voice, "Why are you telling me this now? I need someone who really cares about what's true, even if it is not easy to hear. Someone who will ask the questions. Someone who will not back down." He took a folder out of his desk. Pushed it over to her. "I want you to work for me as the person who keeps track of my records and looks into things. You will be able to see all of the company's records, the notes from our meetings and our financial papers. Your job will be to find things that seem strange or do not add up. You will look for things that just do not seem right in our records and financial statements. You will report directly to me and only to me." Emma opened the folder. What she saw made her feel dizzy. The salary they were offering was a lot of money. They were also giving her health insurance and a housing allowance and a budget for her research. This was everything Emma had lost before. Now it was coming back to her in a different way. Then Emma thought about the way he spoke to her, and that made her stop and think. What are you actually asking me to do with the information you are giving me? You want to know what the real task is that you are asking me to complete with the things you are telling me to do. Dominic was really quiet for a long time. Then he spoke up. Said, I am asking you to help me figure out what Cassandra has been up to while I have been too blind to notice what Cassandra is doing. The words hung in the air between Emma and Cassandra. They felt really bad. Emma thought about what happened in the dining room. She thought about how Cassandra was, on purpose. Emma remembered how Cassandra walked through the restaurant like it was hers. She thought about how scared the other women looked, and even the manager seemed afraid of making Cassandra upset. Emma thought about the fear she saw in the women's eyes when they looked at Cassandra. Emma said this in a quiet voice. She is really scared. She will come after me, Emma said. If I take this job, she will make my life very bad. Dominic said that she will try. This time the woman will not be by herself. This time Dominic and the others will be ready for the woman. Emma looked down at the contract in her hands. This was her chance to get back something she thought was gone for good. She thought about Professor Whitmore and the cost of keeping quiet. What happens when good people choose to be safe of telling the truth? Emma thought about the woman she used to be before she went to Columbia. Then she believed that telling the truth was more important than what might happen to her. She thought about the contract and the woman she used to be, the one who thought truth mattered. The woman wanted to know when she would start. She asked this question because she was really looking forward to the thing that was going to happen. When do I start? She said loud. Dominic's smile was really small. It was real. He said, "Tomorrow. Emma, there is something you should know. Cassandra is not the person she seems to be. I think she has been hurting more than my life at home. Whatever you discover, I need you to write down everything. Because when people find out about this, I need to be sure what really happened with Cassandra and her actions." Emma walked out of the obsidian tower when the first gray light of morning came to the city. The streets were empty as she walked. She had the contract in her bag. It felt safe there. She felt something that she had not felt for 2 years. It was hope. Maybe it was purpose. Deep down she knew she was in trouble now. She had just made herself a target. Cassandra Winters would not let her get away with it. The Obsidian Tower and people like Cassandra Winters did not take kindly to betrayal. Emma knew that Cassandra Winters would come after her because she had gone against the rules that kept people like Cassandra Winters safe and in power. She was right about that. The thing is, she did not know that the truth she was going to find out would change everything that Dominic Blackwood had made. This truth would be very bad for him. The problem was, finding out this truth was going to cost a lot more than either of them thought it would. The truth about Dominic Blackwood was going to be very expensive to uncover. The game had begun. And this time, Emma refused to lose. Emma's new office was on the floor of Blackwood Tower. It was in a corner. Had big windows that looked out at the Hudson River. The office was really big. It made her old studio apartment look tiny. The desk in her office was made of mahogany. The bookshelves were full of company records that went back 15 years. Her computer could get into lots of databases that she had only wished she could use when she was in school. Emma's new office at Blackwood Tower had everything she needed. It should have felt amazing to have this office at Blackwood Tower. It did not feel that way to Emma. It felt like she was standing on a stage with lights shining right on her. The people watching her were not visible. She could feel their eyes on her. Everything she did the audiences judged. The spotlights were burning into her skin. She felt really uncomfortable. She was on that stage, with those spotlights and the invisible audiences judging every movement of hers, the movement of the girl, every movement. The people who worked at the company were very nice to her. It was a nervous kind of nice. They were not really sure what she was supposed to be doing, but they knew she was important because of who she knew. They would get her coffee without her asking, they would hold the door open for her, and they would answer her questions very carefully. She could see that they were also a little scared of her. They would stop talking when she walked into the room. They would whisper to each other when she was not around. They were all wondering why Dominic Blackwood had hired her, a waitress with no experience in business, to look into the company that he owned, Dominic Blackwood's company. Cassandra's reaction was totally over the top. On the day she showed up at Emma's office door, she was wearing this ivory silk dress that made her look like an angel who was really mad. Her smile was so sharp it could hurt you. Cassandra said to me, "You are really clever," but I could tell she did not mean it. Her voice was nice and friendly. It was all an act. She said, "You used to serve food to people and now you are trying to be a detective." Dominic always liked to help people who were in trouble. Then she walked around the office touching things with her fingers that were perfectly painted. She looked at everything carefully with her eyes that seemed to be thinking all the time. She said to me, "Emma, do you know what happens to people who forget where they belong in the world?" Emma looked up from the reports. She had been going over them for a while. "I think people like the team learn fast when people like you talk to them," Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. She was talking about the team and people like you who remind the financial team. Cassandra's smile had. Then it got sharper. She said, "Be careful, darling. You have been given a time, but nothing in this tower is going to last forever. Especially not you." She leaned in close to me. Her perfume was really strong. It was expensive. It was also kind of suffocating. She said, "I know what happened at Columbia. I know about Professor Whitmore. I know how easy it is for people to lose their name when someone pushes on the right weak spots. It would be really bad if the same thing happened again to you. I do not think you want that to happen to Columbia or to Professor Whitmore or to you." After she left, Emma sat down in the leather chair and let herself tremble. The warning was obvious. Cassandra had looked into Emma's past, found the memory, and would keep pushing on it until Emma gave up or backed down. Emma had already gone through 2 years of dealing with the fallout of being falsely accused. Emma knew what it was like to hit rock bottom. During those tough years, Emma learned something important. When Emma has already lost everything that matters, being scared does not bother Emma as much. She really got into the work like someone who was very hungry and then found something to eat. The company records were very detailed. They wrote down every transaction and they even recorded every decision the board made in minutes that were, like little stories. At glance, everything looked fine. Blackwood Technologies was doing well, they were giving money to good causes, and the board of directors all seemed to agree with Dominic's ideas. Emma had learned to pay attention to what people did not say. She noticed the things that were left out. Then something started to happen. Patterns started to show up like messages that you can only see when you hold them up to the light. The patterns were like a code. Emma was starting to figure out what the code meant, just like when you hold a special kind of ink up to a flame and the message appears. Emma was seeing the patterns in the things that people said and did. It was like the invisible ink was being revealed, one little piece at a time, and it was all about the things that people were not saying, the things that Emma had learned to read between the lines, the things that were not said as much as what was said, and that was the key to understanding the patterns, the Emma way of reading, between the lines. Over the year and a half, 6 big bosses who worked with Dominic had to move to other countries or they just quit because of personal stuff. These 6 people were part of the group that Dominic trusted the most when he first started the company 12 years ago. Now we have people in their place and they are good at their jobs, but we do not really know them that well. They do not have a connection to Dominic, like the old people did. The board meetings used to take a time like 3 hours. Now they are done in 1.5 hours. Things that people should have talked about a lot were agreed on quickly. Everyone was in agreement. Emma looked at the notes from the meetings and the money reports. She found some mistakes, not big things, but they kept happening. The money that was supposed to go to charities that Dominic really cared about was being sent to groups. These groups sounded okay. You could not find much information about them on the internet, and they did not have a good record of what they did. It was a Thursday evening. The office was really quiet. The only people around were the security guys and the people who cleaned the place. Emma was writing down what she had found out when she heard a knock on her door. She looked up. Saw Rosa Martinez standing there. Rosa Martinez was still wearing the clothes she wore when she worked at the Midnight Rose. Her eyes looked really scared. She also looked like she was not going to give up. Emma saw that Rosa Martinez had something on her mind. Rosa Martinez looked at Emma with those eyes that seemed frightened, but Rosa Martinez also seemed determined. "Miss Hayes," Rosa said in a voice looking down the empty hallway. She really needed to show Miss Hayes something. This was not the right place. Miss Hayes should not see it here. Anywhere that had cameras watching. Rosa and the other person met an hour later in a diner in Queens. This diner was far from the big fancy buildings of Manhattan. They sat in a booth near the back of the diner. The lights in the diner were of flickering. The coffee they had was not very good. It tasted like something was burning. Rosa got an envelope out of her bag. She pushed the envelope across the table to the person. The table was old. Had a lot of scratches on it. The envelope was a color. Rosa had put some things in the manila envelope. "I clean Miss Winter's office at the restaurant 3 nights a week," Rosa said, her voice really quiet. "Miss Winters thinks the people who clean up after her are not there. She gets rid of things without tearing them up, leaves her papers all over her desk, and talks on the phone while I am throwing away the trash. She does not even care that I am there. Rosa looked at the envelope. I have been putting together pieces of information for 2 months now. This all started when you stood up to Miss Winters. I think that if someone could just look at her in the eye, they might actually see the real her. Maybe they would be brave enough to see what she is. Emma opened the envelope and her fingers were shaking. She found lots of papers inside. There were drafts of memos and emails that people did not want anymore. She also found bank statements with some lines marked. There were notes that Cassandra had written by hand. If you looked at each thing by itself, it did not make sense. When you looked at all the papers together, you could see that someone had been stealing and lying to people on purpose. The papers showed how it was all planned out. Emma had the envelope, with all the papers that showed what was going on with the theft and manipulation, and she knew that the papers were important to understand the systematic theft and manipulation. Cassandra was taking money from Blackwood's charity. At first it was not a lot of money. Then she started taking more and more. She was hiding the money in companies and sending it to accounts in other countries. The bad thing was not just that she was taking the money. The notes showed that Cassandra was doing something worse. She was trying to keep Dominic from people who might ask questions about what she was doing. She wanted to make sure nobody stopped her from having control over things. Blackwood's charity and Cassandra's actions were really suspicious. Cassandra was getting away with a lot of things. Something about one note really scared Emma. It had a list of people on it. All of them used to be important at the company, like executives or on the board. But now they were all gone. They quit or were let go. Next to each person's name was something that happened to them. Some people had rumors spread about them having affairs. Some people had to take time off because they were supposedly sick. Some people had family problems that needed their attention in parts of the world. One thing on the list just said that someone had an accident while they were working in another country, and it was very sad. Emma saw the list of names and the bad things that happened to them, like affair allegations and health concerns and family emergencies. The note said that one of the executives had an accident during inspection, naturally tragic, and that really made Emma's blood run cold. The final page was what really made Emma think that something was not right. It was a report from a laboratory that had tested a mixture of herbs and medicine that helps people sleep. The report said that a private company that makes medicine had done the testing. At the bottom of the page, someone had written a note by hand that said, "Evening tea protocol, take 2 milligrams every day and slowly increase the amount so it keeps working without anyone noticing the evening tea protocol." Emma looked up at Rosa. Her voice was tight. "How long has she been giving him these drugs?" "It has been at a year, maybe even longer. I have seen the tea service that Miss Hayes uses. She always gets it ready specially in her office, and she always serves it in the same porcelain cup. Mr. Blackwood has a cup of tea every evening when they have dinner together. He thinks that Miss Hayes is being very kind to him, that she is taking care of him." Rosa's hands were shaking as she held her coffee cup. "Miss Hayes, I am really scared. If she finds out that I gave you these papers, I do not know what Miss Hayes will do to me. I just cannot watch this anymore. It is really hard for me to just stand by and be invisible while all of this is going on." Emma reached across the table, took Rosa's hand. "You are not invisible. You were never invisible. I promise you, Rosa, that I will make sure Emma's friend faces consequences for what she did to Rosa. I will make sure that the woman who hurt Rosa is held accountable for her actions. Rosa deserves that much from me and from everyone, especially from the people who care about Rosa. It is easy to make promises. It is not so easy to keep them." 3 days went by. Then Emma got to her office. When she got there, she found 2 security people from the company waiting for her outside her door. Cassandra was standing behind these security people. She looked really confused and worried. It seemed like she was just pretending to be that way. Emma could see that Cassandra was not really confused, she just looked like it. "Emma," Cassandra said, her voice loud and clear as it went down the hallway so everyone could hear. I feel really bad that you have to go through this. People are saying some very bad things about the school and there have been serious allegations against the school, Emma. The security guy, a man named Patterson who used to be a police detective, came forward in a formal way that made everyone feel weird. Miss Hayes, we need you to come with us now. We have some questions for you about getting into files without permission and maybe even spying on the company. We are talking about the files and the potential corporate espionage that may have happened, so Miss Hayes, we need to ask you some questions about the unauthorized access to these confidential files. Emma's heart stopped. She said, that is ridiculous. I have the okay from Mr. Blackwood himself, the full authorization, and I know Mr. Blackwood himself gave it to me. Mr. Blackwood is not here now because he has to take care of a big problem at our place in Singapore. He will not be back for 3 days. While Mr. Blackwood is away, I have to deal with security problems inside the company. The evidence against you is very bad. I am afraid the evidence is quite damning. The evidence looks really bad for you. It is all about the internal security matters that Mr. Blackwood would normally handle. They took Emma to a conference room. That is where they had all the things that were her worst fear. There were printed emails with her name and signature on them, and these emails were offering to sell technology information to the competitors of Blackwood. They also had bank statements that showed a lot of money being put into an account that had her name on it. Then there were text messages to phone numbers that she did not know, and these messages were talking about sending confidential files to someone. The emails with her name and signature were really bad because they were trying to sell technology information to Blackwood's competitors. The bank statements with her name on them were also very suspicious. The text messages to unknown numbers were discussing the delivery of confidential files from Blackwood. This whole thing was made up, it was put together well, and it was totally bad news for the person it was about. The story was completely fabricated, the evidence was perfectly. The outcome was all utterly damning for that person. The entire situation was a big lie, but it was a lie that was constructed in a very clever way, and that made it all the more damaging. Emma said that this is impossible. Her voice did not sound very strong even to herself. She said that she never sent those emails, she never opened that account, and she never contacted those competitors. The competitors is the other companies that her company competes with, the competitors of her own company. Patterson said that is what they all say. He did not say it in a way. Patterson looked very tired. He looked like a man who had seen this same thing happen many times before. Miss Hayes, it would be better for Miss Hayes if she told the truth. Miss Hayes should make a statement. Explain what happened to Miss Hayes. If Miss Hayes does that, maybe they can work something out for Miss Hayes. Emma looked at Cassandra, who was standing by the window with a sad face. I know this is hard for you, Emma. You had trouble with cheating at school. Now you are in trouble for spying at work. It is sad to see the same things happening again. Some people just cannot be trusted with jobs. Corporate espionage is a deal, and it is not the first time you have been in trouble, Emma. You also had problems with misconduct. It seems like the same patterns keep happening with you, Emma. The words really hurt Emma. They were like punches that hit her right where it hurt the most. Emma felt the weight of something that was not fair. It was the bad situation she was in when she was at Columbia. She had to make a choice that was very hard to make. This time Emma had something that she did not have before, her own proof that Cassandra did some very bad things, and it was all written down and safe outside of this building. This proof showed that Cassandra was responsible for bad things, things that were much worse than just making up lies about spying. Emma said, I want my lawyer. I want someone to look into this who does not work for Miss Winters. I want an investigation. The corporate charter says I have the right to ask the board of directors to take a look at this. So I am asking them to do that. I want the full board of directors to hear my appeal because I do not think this is being handled correctly by the people who work for Miss Winters. Patterson looked really uneasy. For a second, Cassandra's mask. You could see something cold and angry underneath. The board will go along with what the investigation finds, she said in a voice. The board will support the investigation. You are just putting off what is going to happen, she said. The investigation is going to find something. The board will support it. You cannot stop it. They were keeping Emma in a security place that was like a company office. It was really like a jail. She was in a room, with a small bed, and they had locked the door. Emma was not allowed to make any phone calls. She was not allowed to have any visitors. They did not let her see her papers or files. This was all done to make Emma feel very alone and scared. They wanted her to feel so desperate that she would sign anything they put in front of her, any paper that said she did something. They were trying to break Emma so she would confess to whatever they said she did. Emma had learned to wait during her 2 years, from home. She sat on the bed and started to remember everything. Emma wrote down everything she had recorded, every single pattern she had seen, every single piece of evidence that Rosa had given her. Emma used a notebook and pen that she had asked Patterson to give her. She wrote everything down on paper in very small writing that filled up page after page. On the night she heard a soft noise at the door. It sounded like someone was scraping at the vent. Then a piece of paper came through. Emma picked it up. Her heart started beating really fast. The note was short. It was written in Rosa's handwriting. It said, "Others are coming forward. The people who work in the kitchen, the people who serve food, and 3 old bosses. We are not invisible anymore. Hold on, because Rosa said so in the note to Emma." The note, from Rosa, said that the kitchen staff and the servers and 3 former executives are coming forward. Rosa wrote to Emma to hold on. Emma held the note to her chest. Felt hope come through the sadness. Cassandra had power because she kept people alone so they could not talk to each other. See what was happening. When people can see what is going on, it helps. Emma made herself seen. Now other people are looking, seeing what is happening and talking about the Emma situation, with Cassandra's power, and Emma is finally hearing that other people are speaking about it, and Emma is seeing that people are looking at Cassandra. The breakthrough came on the day. Patterson showed up at Emma's door with a look that Emma could not really understand. "You have a visitor," Patterson said. The board chairman approved this visit personally for Emma. Emma was taken to a room. This room was bigger. It had real windows. Dominic Blackwood was standing there. He looked like he had gotten a lot older in the past week. The Dominic Blackwood's eyes were really clear. They were sharper and more focused than Emma had ever seen the Dominic Blackwood's eyes before. The Dominic Blackwood's eyes were absolutely furious. "He told me to tell him everything. I had to start from the beginning of the story and include every single detail, no matter how small it seemed. He wanted to know the story, the entire thing, every part of it, without me leaving anything out of the story." Emma talked for 2 hours. She showed him the notes she had put together, told him about the patterns she had found, and described the evidence Rosa had collected. Emma explained about the sedatives and the embezzlement. She also talked about how people who might question Cassandra's control were being removed in a way. Emma watched as his face changed from looking like he did not believe her to looking horrified when he realized what was happening with Cassandra's growing control. "The tea," he said after a time. His voice sounded really empty. "My mom always made me this special tea. She said it helped me feel better after days. I thought she was just being nice to me." He looked at Emma. He looked kind of ashamed. "I have been really blind to what was going on. The tea, it was not the tea, she was doing something to the tea. I was blind, on purpose. I was really stupid to not see it." Emma said this quietly. She thinks this woman is very good at making people see what she wants them to see. Now we have real evidence. This evidence is about the woman. It is real. We cannot explain it away. Make it up. The big question is, can we show this evidence before the woman destroys it and hurts Emma badly? Dominic got up. Walked over to the window. His shoulders were really stiff because he was so tense. He said, "There is a rule in the company rules, something that was made when the company first started. If someone who works for the company is accused of doing something to the company, they have the right to ask for a public meeting with all the important people. This meeting is with the board and the top staff. Nobody has used this rule in a time, but the company still has to follow it. Then he turned around to face her again. His eyes looked really scary. Dominic's eyes held a light because he was talking about the company and the old rule that says any employee accused of crimes against the company has the right to demand a public hearing before the full board and executive staff of the company. If you do this, Cassandra will not be able to control what people think. Everything will be out in the open for everyone to see. The people will see what is happening. They will know the truth. Cassandra will have to deal with the things that people are saying about her. She will have to face the accusations from the people. Cassandra will not be able to hide from the things that are being said about her. Emma said that the woman will be ready. The woman will have answers for everything. She will have people who will say that her story is true. The woman will have reasons that will sound like they make sense. Emma warned that the woman will be prepared. Then we will have to be more prepared. Dominic pulled out his phone. Started making calls. He is bringing in accountants, digital forensics experts and independent investigators to help with the case. We are going to write down everything, check everything, and when we go into that hearing we will have evidence that nobody can ignore or make excuses for. Dominic said, I am going to make sure we have all the facts, and forensic accountants will help us understand the money situation, digital forensics experts will help us with computer stuff, and independent investigators will help us find out what really happened. Emma felt something happen in her chest. It was weak. It was real. She said, why are you doing this to help Emma? Why do you risk everything to defend Emma when you do not know Emma well? Dominic looked at her for a long time. He said, you were right about Whitmore when nobody else thought so. Everybody said you were wrong. You were right and you lost everything because of it. I do not want that to happen to you again. I am not going to let that happen to you again in the company that I work for, the company that I'm in charge of, Dominic's company, my company.